Hi everyone. I just want to say thank you very much for all your hard work in the week that the BJTC came. I think they're very impressed with what you do, the way you're being taught and the way you carry out your work, knowing what you do and how it prepares you so well for life in the profession, if indeed that's what you want to be. To do when you leave Winchester. So from that point of view, well done. As I look at the bulletin as a whole, I think I echo some of the comments that were made by those BJTC people. It's a bit formulaic, this bulletin, in the fact that it's link, package, link, package, link, package, but also it has got a good range of stories, and for that you should be praised. And you've gone out and you are progressing in the fact there are lots of shots in there this week, and I'm pleased that you've shot a lot and you've made it visually an interesting bulletin because you've tried so hard to get as many shots in as possible that tell the story. There's some decent storytelling there as well. We need some more sophisticated editing, and we need to get more people into these stories. But apart from that, you've shown yourself off pretty well. And I'm not surprised that BJTC were very pleased with the work that was done. So let's go through the bulletin itself.
Hats off to graduates as celebrations take off at the Winchester Cathedral. Building up to
Just on that first one, I actually think you could have had that 1, 2, 3 as audio, as natural sound. You could have held it that little bit longer. But a nice shot to open the bulletin.
It's early in Winchester.
What matters most are the people.
It's quite tight, that one, but it is. It's nicely written, but it's very, very tight. You just need to let it breathe a little bit more.
And citizens gather to save Hythe's historic pier.
This is a great story, but I think I've said this to you before, Victoria. If you're writing it, which I presume you were, we don't say citizens for things like this. Citizens is not a natural term that we use. So try and use something else. It's like it's campaigners or something like that. Okay, but not citizens.
Good evening, I'm Victoria Wang and welcome to Winchester News Online.
By the way, I just want to say, Victoria, how well you read this. I'm really pleased the way you've come on as a presenter and how you've listened to what I've told you, and a really competent performance delivering this bulletin. So it gave it a real professionalism by being able to see you punchy and authoritative in the studio. So that's really good. Well done.
3 years of hard work has paid off for more than 2,000 students who collected their degrees last week. Winchester Cathedral welcomed students, staff, and honorary fellows from the university to commemorate their success. Georgie Wingrove was there. Celebrations took...
One small point here, Georgie, that's about the makeup of the whole bulletin as a whole. Just before, we've had this as our first headline shot, not this one, but the previous one of everyone throwing their mortarboards in the air. And I just wonder whether you might have started with this shot, everyone applauding them, rather than the one in the air, because we've just seen that shot so recently. That's where we look at the makeup of a whole bulletin and see if it fits together. And I wonder whether we've doubled up on that shot too early. And you've seen it twice within the space of a minute. So I think that's why I might have started with this one. But you have to be in communication with the editor about what your headline shots are. And presumably you gave them the headline shot. So it's about thinking where it's going to be in the bulletin and if it's going to be repeated so soon after the headlines.
It's last week at the historic Winchester Cathedral.
I might not say last week. I know it was last week, but as soon as you do that, you date it.
As the city's university graduates gathered in their caps and gowns to receive their degrees. Over 2,000 students came together in 8 ceremonies to commemorate their achievements, as well as 8 prominent figures receiving honorary doctorates from the university.
including best-selling author Bill Bryson.
It's always such a wonderful occasion because you see their faces light up as they realise that all their hard work has finally paid off. Each one of these is an individual. Every one of them is a moment of kind of a little moment of individual glory, like a flashbulb going off.
Really good to get him. I mean, it just added so much to the piece.
The choice of continuing further education or leaping into the world of work. The big question is, what happens next?
And that's really good to just expand this story rather than just being the ceremony.
Eventually I want to go and do my Masters in nursing, but as for now I'm going to go into support work.
Relieved it's over, but saying that, hoping I'm going to be back in next year because I'm doing a Masters at Winchester as well.
Well, I've actually just started teaching at the university. So the past 3 years, I've been already a member of staff as a learning and teaching fellow, and I was doing my doctorate part-time, and now that I've finished, I've started teaching.
That's really good, Georgie. What you've got there is you've got 3 different vox pops looking in different directions, shot nicely, cut nicely, the perfect length, and that is how to do your vox pops.
Well, it's been an exciting week here in Winchester, and it's time to see what the future holds for our graduates. Georgie Wingrove, Winchester News Online.
The piece to camera is nice, and I like the fact that everyone's trying to do a piece to camera. Remember, the piece to camera has to add something to the piece, and I think, Georgie, here you might have just said what has been said already. Having said that, it's very well delivered. You look good on camera. You look authoritative. You've done enough pieces to camera now where you feel comfortable. So from that point of view, that's really good. I just wonder whether you could have added something else. Think about what you're saying to add to that package that you've just done, rather than just slightly repeating what else has happened. And I wonder whether it would have been possible to get hold of Alan Titchmarsh. I think this is the first time that he's been to the graduation ceremony as Chancellor, because he was only put in place last year or earlier on this year. So it may have been worth having a chat with him as well. I mean, if you've got Bill Bryson and you've got Alan Titchmarsh, just think how you can tag that into this bulletin and spread the word, and then all these searches that we get for Bryson and Titchmarsh and the like would come up with this, and then you get loads of people viewing your package.
With the countdown to Christmas already underway, Winchester is preparing for a flood of tourists over the festive season. Following complaints from some visitors last year, improvements have been made to the ice rink and the parking facilities. Ashley Harrison reports.
Really good link, well read, explain the story, well done. But going into each package, and I don't know whether this is our vision mixing machine, we've got a black hole. So we've got to be careful there that we run. That's one of the reasons why we have this natural sound at the beginning, so that we can run it a little bit and then you cut to it so you don't get this black hole. So remember that when we're doing future bulletins.
Winchester are pulling out all the stops to make this year's market better than ever.
Nice start, really nice start, well done.
350,000 visitors expected. People are concerned about overcrowding. The new and improved ice rink means this year could be busier than ever.
What matters most are the people.
That's very, very short to see someone to begin with. I think you could have not even included him in there and just had the voice underneath the pictures and then come to him when you do come to him. So it's so brief that he sort of disappears before we know it, and then he comes back. I think, Ashley, you don't need to include him first time and just have his voice underneath.
If you're losing out because people aren't coming skating because they're chucking it down, why not put a roof over it? And there we go. Hopefully more people will come. I can guarantee no rain.
The builders expect new improvements to attract more guests than usual, so the council has come up with a new initiative to improve congestion around the city. A new park and ride scheme has been introduced to replace central car parks that have been closed down. This will move traffic away from the city centre.
I wonder if you could just visualise that bit. It's nice to have the city centre car parks, which you've done, but I wonder whether you could illustrate where these park and ride car parks have gone from and to.
By moving the park and ride buses up a couple of hundred yards, it helps us relieve that pressure and just take some of the strain off the one-way system at this very busy time. Some people will say...
Just a little clip on the way you've edited that, so just be careful.
Best thing for Winchester is to shut down all the car parks and close the one-way system and pedestrianise everything. Some people will say that you need to add several hundred more parking spaces on top of what we've already got. I think the answer is probably somewhere in the middle.
With the festive season fast approaching, Winchester prepares for its busiest time of year. Let's hope visitors are impressed with the improvements. Ashley Harrison, Winchester News Online.
It's a good piece to camera, Ashley. Well done. And, you know, not a bad package, all in all. But I think this one clearly needs vox pops. You need to be talking to people on the street to humanise this story. You've said very much what's going to happen, but you really need to get people of Winchester, the residents, who people are going to use it, engaged in this story.
An update now in the ongoing Silver Hill saga. Councillors have told WINOL this week of their irritation over the lack of progress on the development. Sam Gosher has more.
See, the link and the position of it is good, that it's coming after. It's a central Winchester story. But what you haven't done is explained what Silver Hill is. Not everyone is going to know. Even though it's a long-running story, you still have to explain that it's a development in the centre of Winchester. And that's clearly not far from where the previous story was set. So you can link the two, but explain what Silver Hill is all about. And again, another black hole. We need to look into that.
Silver Hill, the development scheme that is proving frustrating for councillors in Winchester. Starting in the 1990s, the project is for 200 homes, shops and a new bus stop. But questions are being raised as to why hasn't construction begun yet.
The original contractor...
Now, what you get from this lady, Lucille Thompson, is a very long description of the story. Now, as a journalist, you use these people not only to get good grabs from, but also to get information. Now, if you use the whole of this grab, which you have, Sam, it goes on for a very long time. Now, you could summarise what she is saying, because it tells the whole story of Silver Hill, and then get her or use another part of your interview with her. And therefore, you'll get a tighter package, because she rambles on for quite a long time here. Even though she's explaining the story in quite good detail, it's too long. And it's something you could have done as a journalist in your voiceover a lot quicker. And this is a really good point for everyone when they interview. Some people will explain what is going on, but it's 9 times out of 10, it's better for you to put in your voiceover what that person has said and take another grab from them.
Was on side to actually build the thing. He was made bankrupt. Another company came in and took over the assets that the previous company had owned, one of which was the right to build out Silver Hill. That was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and there have been a number of dates along the way when that particular company said, okay, we're all set, we've got the funding sorted out, we've got X, Y and Z, I's dotted and T's crossed, but in the end it just didn't happen.
See, that's really quite a long grab, and you could have said that in a lot quicker fashion.
Partial demolition of the Friarsgate car park began last week, which is a positive start for the renovation of Silver Hill, but dissatisfaction in the area remains high due to the obstacles the scheme has encountered.
Almost all councillors have been for development of a rundown part of town. It needs regeneration. It's awful 70s, 60s concrete. It's not being productive, it's not good use of space, and it's a dreadful welcome to the wonderful city of Winchester.
He's absolutely right, it is. He's not a great talking head, Stephen Godfrey, but he's good that you've got him. And you've got a good range of shots in this package, Sam, which is really impressive. What I would say on your piece to camera, though, is it's a bit static, and yes, you've got a couple of signs next to you, but we can't see all of it. Yes, you've got the scaffolding as well, footpath closed. It looks like some building is going on, but I wonder whether there is a bigger picture. You may have just done this on your own, I don't know. It's just crying out for a bit of movement in this piece to camera.
So on it goes. The £150 million scheme is still in contention.
Still in contention. What does that mean, Sam? Still in contention for what? Still on course? Still going to happen? I don't know what it is, but not quite the right words. Just think about what you're going to say.
Still quite a way until completion. Sam Gocher, Winchester News Online.
But again, good voice, strong delivery, authoritative, and from that point of view, really well done.
The oldest operating pier railway in England is now in danger of closing down. Hythe Pier and Ferry has been operating...
Just started to speak a little bit too quickly, Victoria. You're really good at the start of the show. Just got a little bit quicker now.
Since 1881, but due to its expensive upkeep, may have to stop its services. Local citizens gathered at the pier to show their support.
And as I've said, citizens is not just local residents or local campaigners. Something like that. We just don't use the word citizens, but that's fine.
Amy reports.
Members of an action group are campaigning to save Hythe's pier and ferry service.
Emily, I'm just worried that you've actually repeated what has been said in the link here. You know, opening lines are free rein for you to develop a story and put a little twist on it. You know, you could say something which you just go on to say in a while. You know, I might say something like, it's been part of the fabric of Hythe for more than a century. But now, blah, 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 whatever it is, that sort of thing, so that you're not just telling us a fact. You're just trying to interpret in some way. So your opening line isn't just X, Y, Z. You know, here are the facts of the story. You're putting a slight interpretation onto this to put everything in perspective. You don't have to go straight in with local residents are doing X, Y, and Z. Just start painting a picture with these opening lines.
The pier has been around since Queen Victoria was on the throne, but high maintenance costs and fewer commuters mean that the pier's future is uncertain.
I wonder whether that was just a better line. Take out the residents, you know, just paint the picture first and then get the campaigners.
Campaigners gathered on Saturday to show support for the ferry.
This has some fantastic advertising opportunity for the pier. It is run down. It does need, I would call...
Just a bit wobbly on that shot. Look, I want to be positive because I think there's a really good range of shots here. I mean, you've, as we say, you've shot it to death, so you've got some really nice pictures. But from here, this shot is wobbling, and I wonder whether you can just get down. You know, could you get down here and get? You know, this is clearly not a bit wobbly, isn't it, up here? And you could have got some nice shots at low level.
Injection of vitamins into it. Going forward, it's a golden opportunity, I think, to really revitalise the pier.
It's the world's oldest pier with a train running on it, and that's in the Guinness Book of Records.
Part of the history of the village, and I think that the railway is an important element of our local transport system as well. And without it, I think we'll have a great congestion on the bypass.
It's a vital transport link to Southampton. The roads, unfortunately, the A326 is way too busy. There's far too much traffic, and it's a really decent, viable alternative.
They're really good vox pops again, and you've cut them right, left, right. So it's really good. It's very well stitched together for an early piece for you, Emily.
The group hopes to gather the support of volunteers who would run the service through a charitable trust.
There's been a Hythe ferry here for very many years, and it's called the Hythe Ferry. Not the ferry, it's the Hythe Ferry. So it's a much beloved service, and importantly, we want to make sure all the people that work here still have a job on the new service.
However, a group which was set up previously to improve the ferry service saw a decline in support in recent years.
I think, like anything, 100 people come and say, I'll help. And after a couple of months, it's down to 50. And then before long, you're down to a core of those who are really interested, as opposed to those who are interested on the side.
This situation has been making waves in the local community. The question now is whether this service can continue to run or whether this ship has sailed for good. The
This is Emily May, Winchester News Online.
Emily, really well done with the piece to camera. I mean, you've tried to, make a good use of words. You've wrapped up the story. This is a really good effort for a package. I wonder whether this could have been on a tripod as well, because the shot's a little bit wobbly, but a really good effort about telling the story of this ferry.
How safe is your bike? Cyclists in Hampshire are being warned to be on their guard after a spate of bike thefts. Local police have launched an effort to put a brake on these rising numbers. Juliana Tosh reports.
Oh, look, there's another black hole.
Eye on top of the screen.
That's a nice start. That's Juliana, that's really good. Just direct people where you want them to look. Explain what's going on. Good use of pictures, good use of words.
This might look like an ordinary man on his way to work, but in fact, it is yet another thief getting away with someone's bike. In between September and October, the police have recorded...
Not quite sure what that shot is. I think you need to go to a bike shop first before you see someone rummaging around for some screws in a drawer.
54 cycle thefts in the Southampton area. Due to this increase, Hampshire Constabulary have launched Operation D-Lock, a campaign to keep bikes safe. Bicycle owners are being urged to use D-locks in order to prevent these thefts.
Best things.
I think you need a shot of a D-lock. I know that is a D-lock on the bike there, but you need to pick that up and get a close-up of that.
What you do is obviously to have a lock. So a lock is really important to make sure that the bike is secured. But on top of that, also think about the location of where you're about to leave your bike. Personally, yes, I've had, in my younger days, I had a beautiful...
Look at this. It's interesting because the shot that you had him first up was absolutely fine because he was more or less here. Now he's moved and he's right in the middle of this picture. He's all right on this line of thirds, isn't he? But your line of thirds here is down there and down there. So he's gone right in the middle. Now, if you're shooting this on your own, then that's very difficult because you can't, it's very difficult to move your camera in the interview if you're the one who's doing the interview and the camera work. But if you've got somebody else shooting it for you, they need to adjust the camera so that he is not right in the middle of this interview. And he's also become very, very profile. So we can only see, we see this eye, we don't see much of this eye, and then you just see the outline profile. So he needs to face more towards the camera.
BMX bike stolen, and again the emotions and the feeling of having your bike stolen is just like being burgled.
It would be frustrating more than I mean, for me, it wouldn't be the financial loss. It would be the inconvenience of actually being able to get home. Yeah, more.
Just look at the way you've had the interview of the bike guy, then you've got this vox pop. He's looking that way, and then you've followed it with this other Winchester resident also looking the same way. So mix it up. Get an interview with somebody facing that way, looking that way to camera, looking out camera left. And that's this is again very profile-y, which means you can just see the profile of the person that you're interviewing. And when it comes to vox pops, i.e. talking to members of the public, you don't need to actually put an aston on, so you don't need their name down there.
An inconvenience because of the journey home, but yeah, obviously I'd have to spend money in the place. I'd be quite annoyed if someone said that. Yeah.
Security measures are being provided by the police as bike theft and crime awareness remains a priority. Hampshire Constabulary continues to work hard to make sure that cyclists regain the confidence to get back on the saddle. Juliana Tosh, Winchester News Online.
But again, good story. You've gone for vox pops. You've tried to get people interested. You've gone to a bike shop. You've got footage from the police. So all in all, you've got all the right components for this story. And you brought in some statistics there. So again, for an early effort, this is really, really good.
The oven's preheated, the tins are greased, and the nation is set. Jess Daly looks at how baking is taking over more than our screens.
That's a really nice start. It's a really good opening line. It probably just needs one in the middle before you get on with your package. So really good effort. Just a little bit more needed.
Tomorrow night sees the final of this year's Great British Bake Off, and in Winchester the baking scene is flourishing. with groups like the Clandestine Cake Club encouraging people to explore baking as a hobby.
I really like just the creating aspect of it.
Well, we've frozen here a bit. I mean, it was a good time for me to actually just say what I think on this package. If it's going to collapse now, I'll just talk you through the end bit. What I think about this package is the fact that the mill may be the more interesting bit. I think you could say, oh, look, there's an unlikely beneficiary of Great British Bake Off's success, and that is the mill. And then you get those pictures, you get the fact that that is expanding. They're putting a cafe in and all the flour being used from that mill. And then you go to the baking group. But there's a really good mix of a range of pictures and people in this story. So again, well done. I think it might be the WINOL website that is buffering at this stage as opposed to me. So I'll just carry on talking if it's not going to come back. Final story, Natasha and your cats and kittens. I think again you need to slow down your VO. It gets a little bit rushed. The interview with the person at the cattery or the rescue centre, I wonder whether it should be inside because all the other shots are inside. But it's a perfect piece to camera at the end. It was just crying out for you to do one with a cat. And so that's great. And, you know, people love animal stories. It's a good cat story. So it's in the right position in the bulletin. It's a nice and finally. And it's got a good range of pictures again, which is really pleasing. But just those few things to look at, Natasha. And the end of the show, I like the graduation fashion. It just needed to be shot more imaginatively. Going tilt from down to up to down and down to up is not that exciting. And then all you do is repeat it. So it needed a bit, you know. It shows that we're a very staid university. If the only fashion we can show is an up, down, you know, that is something that is just crying out for a bit of interpretation, for a bit of crazy shooting, you know, a bit more music, a bit more zassy, a bit of treatment on all that, because it happened the week before. You got loads of time to make something really interesting in that. And otherwise, it was just a little bit dull. Nice idea, but just carried out in a very Middle England, old-fashioned way, which some people might say Winchester is. Anyway, on the whole, really well done. Sorry I can't show you the last few things. I'm going to blame the Winchester server for that. But on the whole, you know, it's a really good effort. It's really picture-rich, which is very good news this week. But the only thing I would say, well, the main thing I would say against it is the fact that it's all a bit formulaic. And I really would have liked some news in brief. I'd like some sport in there somewhere, and just to be able to mix it up. So you've got your long packages, but also you've got your short underlays and your news in briefs as well. Otherwise, pretty good effort, folks. Well done.